Mid-October, 1st November. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 5:30. Let's call this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today, Lord, and we ask you that you give us wisdom in any decisions that we make today, Lord. We want to pray for the fire department, police department, Lord. Keep them safe. Keep our citizens safe. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. All righty, before we do the roll call, I would like to recognize Mr. Steve Core. I want to tell you happy birthday. Congratulations. You made it another year, and we are blessed to have you.
I just want to know how old are you?
How come we didn't put him on the sign today?
Yeah. There is a cookie in there, a birthday cookie, like a great big one, on the table after this. We didn't feed you before that. Don't want you on a sugar high while you're in here in this meeting.
We did get a burning permit so we could light the candles too, so. All right, let's do a roll call.
Aaron Rowe,
Here.
John Danis.
Here.
James Davis, Savannah Robinson.
Here.
Ken Cauley.
Here.
Bill Young.
Here.
Ron Sharon.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. All right, has everybody been able to look over the minutes of the September 10th meeting? If so, and there's no objection, we'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes as written.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. All right, motion carries. Would anybody in the public like to talk about any of the items on the agenda at this time? Yes, sir. If you'll come up to the podium, state your name.
My name is Josh Mickle, Mickle Griffin Engineers and Surveyors. Nick, my partner, and I are here just to answer any questions that you may have about the agenda item. We're representing FCRA and their interest as we have looked at both a feasibility study for that parcel, as we've looked at water tower discussions at the request of the mayor and Steve Core, and possible borrow pit options on that in lieu of the I-49 bridge project.
All righty. Anybody else have anything? All righty. There is no unfinished business, so we can move to new business, which is discussion of the Interstate 49 borrow pit. Mr. Steve, if you would, take it away.
Okay. The other day, we had a session, and they have brought a full-size sheet out. And for you all that are on this side, you will see the trace of the interstate. They have had a borrow pit in this location right here before, when they were working on the interstate to come across the highway. What they have asked for is consideration to have a borrow pit here, be away from the gas line. You don't want to be near it. Be away from the overhead electric power line. You want to be clear of it. And to take this down to a level that you see here. The high point out there is about elevation 480, and our water tower up there is based on about 500, so we would need to be somewhere where we could use the 480 elevation. Otherwise, you'll have to pay for some extra length of the tower legs. We have talked, I spoke to Carl Gefkin for just a minute today about the tie-in to the 48-inch, which will be alongside the interstate. And I asked, he would want to do some more discussing, and I'm gonna hand these down to go to the other end. The green lines on this one reflect the sewer that comes around. This is the north side of town, and this is the one that heads for the lagoons. So that'll give you kind of an orientation of where it is. This is the old Browns Lake Road, which is blockaded so people can't dump and cut through there. The biggest thing is, and the guys will tell you, they're looking at 420,000 cubic yards of fill, plus or minus. And so when you, 420,000 cubic yards of fill is lots of dirt. The material they got out of there the first time that went for the crossing on the north side of 22 Highway was suitable material. There are some places out here that you can't get it. There's some that it's grease shell, you just don't want it, okay? This right here, if you did this, what their aim and the thought process was to have this ridge and hill brought down to some sort of level sloped where it could be developed. The original plans, and they've got the copy of them, was to put a mini or a mall there, and the mall shape, one of the buildings looked just like Bass Pro Shops, and the other looked like a set of stores along, facing on the ridge. Okay, the biggest thing about this is the material. They want to be in the bid section to where they don't have to haul across a highway or an active road. And the reason is, if you've ever done rock and riprap out here like I did on the river, you don't want to have to go across a highway. You want to have a haul road that you're on, and that's the thought process behind it. They're aware of the gas lines that are out there, and there is a gas well shown in that one corner right there. My first thought is, I don't know what the estimated price for 420,000 cubic yards of dirt would be, but it's not free. And that would be a source of funds for that water tower.
Now, I'm assuming the water tower is gonna have to be put here?
It'll have to be there or down here, somewhere where there's a 480, or else we'll have to have extra long legs.
Is there another place that's got 480 on it other than this corner right here?
I think there's another corner down there. It's on, down here, I believe it is. Gentlemen, is there anything that I said that you want to talk about, or?
I mean, I think one important point that Steve mentioned is that instead of just doing a pit, like they've done in some other areas in Chavy Crossing, what we plan to do is provide a grading plan afterwards where it can be developed. So I think that's one important point to consider. And then also with the water tower, as we've said, we've got the 480 contour that we can use up closer to Highway 59. So we're not taking away any ability to construct the water tower, and we're providing a place that could be benefit to the city.
So you're not gonna shave off any dirt that's gonna make us have to have more legs to the tower?
Right. I mean, we're not gonna lower the site that we choose for the water tower won't be any lower than what's already there.
Not any lower than what it is right here?
Right.
Okay. See any adverse?
No, not with this one. They have very carefully looked at the utilities and the dangers. That gas line that's here was put in 1958, and it was the OMR, Oklahoma Mississippi River Products line, and it is steel, and they put it in with slack in it. We know that when we laid the sewer main out there, we had enough slack that you didn't have to do any splicing or tampering, and you really don't want to. You want to, if you've got slack in the line, you want to do it that way. And the biggest thing is you won't have them hauling on H Street, or you won't have them hauling on any of the public streets and tearing them up. Because when what was it, 2 years ago, Matt, when the Army came to the river crossing and they were cutting through city streets, and
yeah.
we had to block them to keep them out.
What kind of effect is this development gonna have on our future 4th of July?
Well, they're gonna be, the 4th of July is up here, and right in this corner right here. And basically a borrow pit is,
Well, what I would just understood him saying that this is gonna be a development all through here.
it can be, it's not, and there's a reason that you want to stay away from some of this is wetland and floodplain, and you want to be clear of that. This sewer line is set so that it mirrors the outline of the floodplain, so you can gravity flow down to the lagoons. The biggest thing is the only corner that's right here. I will tell you that I had a developer come to see me about the acreage across from the park and what he would have to do to build there. And their only sewer connection is right there. So they gotta really think about how they shape the mains and how they put stuff in there. And
So basically, the key thing here is that if we allow them to take the dirt out, we need to ask, I believe, the FCRA if they would take those funds that they profit off of and hold that over for the construction of a water tower. And I think that's only fair. I mean, they have to go through the planning commission and this wonderful board here to be able to dig the dirt. So you guys I see the smiles on your face, and I was kinda doing the same thing. So hopefully,
I think it's a good idea.
I
We
think
can
it's,
pitch it, but-
it's a great pitch, because I think it's only fair,
Helps
that,
everybody.
yeah, it does go to help everybody in the end.
We need a motion, or what do we need to do?
This is just a discussion at this point in time. When we go through this, they'll have to go through the planning commission first, and then it'll come before us after the planning commission,
what,
if I'm correct by that, yeah.
years ago, in 2000, the ordinance for, it's on page 47, it's in paragraph 17 or something. You can't excavate, mining, or anything in town without A, it goes to planning commission, and B, it's approved of the board. And it's been there since at least March 1st of 2000. It's got 24 years that it's been there, and that's one thing to do. The other thing is, and I think these guys know about it, the blasting is, basically there's a no blasting, and probably around that gas line you wouldn't want to, because it's a 19, like say, it's 46 years, 56 years old. You sure wouldn't want to be in
It'd
there.
move some dirt though real quick.
Oh, yeah.
So at this point, then they're gonna go to the Fort Chaffee Development, make their proposal to them, and then bring it back to us. Okay. Sound like a winner?
I'd like to add one thing with regards to the water tower and the general water system on the east side of town. Steve has made available to the FCRA and to us some plans from future developments that showed future water lines and the future water tower, including its location. That's where we've generated a lot of this information. The one question is when will the water tower even be needed, or will it be needed with the current infrastructure and the proposed build out? At FCRA's request, we've prepared a proposal to do a water study for the entirety of the city of Barling to try to assess the demand of what that future development on the east side would look like. And the FCRA has made that available to the mayor and to Steve. And to date, Steve's been very helpful in providing information to us. And we're going to ask that continues so that we can try to get a good assessment of what does the demand look like and when would potentially that water tower ever be required. The FCRA has committed in a meeting that we had last week that reserving an easement or whatever would be required for a future water line location to support that tower, and reserving that easement for the tower on a 480, more as close to it as we could get, is something that should be considered as part of any progress moving forward on this piece of property.
All right, anybody have any comments or questions?
How are you related to Richard?
I'm not.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay.
He's out of Lavaca, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a separate.
How about Rick Griffin?
No relation.
Just checking.
I'm the Griffin, and the Griffin genes come from, or the lineage comes from Dyer and Crawford County, so not related to any Griffins over here on the side of the
Okay.
river.
Just,
Claiborne
keep up
Griffin.
with my Griffins. Yeah.
Claiborne Griffin.
That's my grandfather.
Yeah.
Guys, appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. All right, let's move along to department head reports. Let's start off with Mr. Joe.
I really don't have a whole lot for the month. We have, most of the violations have been grass violations. Obviously, if you know, we've been working with the goats to clear some easements. We have a couple of blockages in certain areas that we're gonna take care of. And that was the whole reason for, clearing that out. So, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to get blockage removed before we go into our rainy taking That's pretty much all I've got.
Well, they're working hard down there at Cameo, ain't they?
They've been taking care of business.
They're eating high on the hog down there, aren't they?
24/7 on the goat.
Yeah, eye on the goat. All righty, Matt, you got anything?
Citywide cleanup, October 25th and 26th.
25th and 26th, citywide cleanup, and that's 7 to 5?
7 to 5.
7 to 5, all righty. Megan, do you have anything? Nope. All righty. Tommy?
All right, for the month of August, the fire department had 3 fire calls. That included 1 house fire, 81 medical calls, 9 public service calls. That was a total of 93 runs. Average response time of 2 minutes, 07 seconds. We had 2 calls at the same time, 3 times for a total of 6 runs. And we had 4 calls at once, 1 time for a total of 4 runs. We made 1 call out of the city to Lavaca on a traffic accident. And we made 5 calls out of the city to Central City, 4 on medical and 1 on traffic assist. And that's all I've got.
All righty. Steve, let's go to you for the administrator report.
Okay, first things first, we're gonna have, we've got the curbs in place, and down on the new Frontier Road, which is gonna be the new highway, we've got a price to put in a concrete turnout, and if we can ever get the railroad off their dime, we will have that street and push it through. But we're gonna have the turnout ready to go, so when we get there, we won't have to reinvent the wheel. And the highway department doesn't have to do any slicing and dicing. That's the,
Is that the 11th Street deal?
yeah, 11th Street, yeah. Matt had a talk with them the other day, and they were, the water line issue, they were on the wrong side of the cemetery. I think he's got them straightened out. They were headed the wrong way. The other thing I want to talk about, we had a meeting today with the state representatives, both senator and 2 representatives, with people from Municipal League and over at the Peak Center, and they had the mayors or administrators from every town from here to Scranton and in every direction, north and south. And one of the things they're talking about is what's gonna happen at the next legislature. And I talked to them about one thing in particular. Everybody's having a housing problem and a housing crunch, and they're having it, it's everywhere. And I told them, I said, the one thing that this town, or most every small town, is not geared up for is short-term rentals. You don't have parking, and you got streets that are narrow, barely enough for the trash truck or the fire truck. You don't need a neighborhood party going on or a neighborhood party house. You can't get up and go to work if the band of the century is playing next door. It doesn't happen. The other thing we talked about is the cleanup. A major thing, and there are some hickeys in the Arkansas laws, okay? Joe can tell you, and I can tell you, of how many crooks and turns and whiff and poof songs you have to do to get somebody to clean something. It comes into mowing, it comes into trash, it comes into house falling in, whatever, okay? Jay Richardson, who is one of the legislators from Fort Smith, is working on filling in the squares and how to do it and what to make changes. And I will tell you that one town, and the mayor, the young lady was there, and I say young because she's much younger than I am, said that they had an affliction of people coming from California and buying up 4 houses in a row. There's no way anybody in California is gonna need 4 houses in a row, so you know that something's up, okay? Another one said that they bought the 4 houses from the tax list, much like the guy bought the detention pond, and I was telling the story about the detention pond that the state low labeled it and just sold it, you know. So, that was another one. The other one was, we talked about the fire. Okay, y'all have not heard all the stories, and we've only read the bits and pieces about OSHA. OSHA is proposing in their deal to bring all the volunteer fire departments into a standard that probably only maybe us and Fort Smith could even handle. And it involves the physicals, it involves the equipment, and then the next one is the great big hiccup, and it is the deal that no truck can be over 20, 15 years old. And I talked to a fellow today who was the mayor at one of the towns east of here, and he's got one that you could probably use the truck for a watch. I mean, it's cared for and for years, much like the ones we take care of. But at $1 million a pop for a new fire truck, or 560,000 or 700, a town can't go around with it. So they're sitting there talking, and I looked and I said, well, have you ever thought about doing something positive like this, voting Arkansas, the whole state wet? And if a town wants to be dry, they can vote it. But take that tax money from the alcohol and put it in the fire department. That way you can have trucks, you can have equipment,
Full-time staff.
full-time staff. And when you have to have, a volunteer has to meet the same physicals as the active duty guy. And I said, you know, you need to stop and think about this because the need is there. I will tell you that there is a house, and Joe can tell you it's down here on Ernest,
Yes.
and the man has gonna pick up his permit and demolish it. If you got substandard building and you got something in the way, there's a provision in the book, in the ordinance, it says it's so much for a demolition permit. I'll assure you, if you're gonna haul a mobile home out of here, or you're gonna demolish a substandard building, I don't want the permit. I don't want your dollars. Hook the vehicle up, the dump truck, and get it out. Tow it, get it gone. Because one of the things that happened, if you haven't read or known in the paper this last weekend, was about Hope, Arkansas, and the campaign that they got to get rid of substandard buildings and people that moved out. And we got vacant buildings when you drive down through here, and I don't know, some of them been vacant since I came out here, and I've been here 21 years in October, and they ain't got anybody in them yet. And so my next reaction is, maybe they need that pass from the state of Arkansas, and we need to take a D9 and a front end loader and throw it in the dumpster and get rid of it and clean the slab off and start all over again. You know, now the goat patrol, and I'll switch gears here, the goats did wonderful. We got the same number of goats. We didn't have any births here. So the same number of goats left as came. However, they are well fed. If you've never seen goats eat like a deer, and they'll get all the low limbs and all the leaves, and they'll bark a tree. And of course, we had the other thing. It was the entertainment for the neighborhood. Every kid over there had a chair or a stool, was out, look at the goat, look at the goat. And they cleaned up. There's a quarter-mile over on Bug Creek, over on behind the Red Pond shop and back in there. And then they went over behind Cameo. Now, I'll tell you the other part, and I'll finish with it. Cameo has got 2 gigantic trees that the people that live over there, and it's their trees, that's their property. But they have, I don't see a little old lady with a backhoe or anything else, or she's not out there with a logging chainsaw cutting it up. So we've got it, the goats have eaten it out where you can see there's 2 trees instead of 1, and we're gonna, it's called free body sectioning in engineering. We're gonna cut free bodies out, and we're gonna take the backhoe and lift, and we can set the little skid steer down in the ditch, and we're gonna clean that out so before rainy season, we'll be there. And the other thing, last but not least, with the bucket truck. Before, very late in the fall, we're gonna try to cut all the overhanging limbs, just like we've done in the years past.
Good.
So if it comes an ice storm,
Yeah.
you don't suddenly wake up and find out you can't get down the road because the tree's out in the road.
Steve, back to what you said about having certain year-old fire trucks. I spoke to one of the fire chiefs in Fort Smith. He was saying that where they order their fire trucks, they're 3 years out right now. And if the state passed that law, that would just put them out 6 years. And it just, I mean, that's not common sense, but.
Well, I think our governor just likes to pass legislation and figure out how to pay for it and make it come to fruition later. She doesn't really like to do the logistics on the front end.
Well, I can tell you that we saved some. Tommy will tell you there are certain manufacturers that are on that national contract. And we got in line, him down there with what we wanted. And everybody's got there's a standard truck, but it's the support equipment that you've got to have for your unique situation. And that's where it gobbles up. And it's no different than a police car. When you buy a police car, you can go get one that's police rated, it'll jump tall buildings and everything else. But the key is that you gotta have the equipment that goes in there. No cage is duplicated from one to the other. Everyone's got a different fit, and it depends on tires and engines and gears, and basically auto mechanics. But a police car, if you think you pay $60,000 a year for a basic patrolman, that car that he's got, when you buy it new, it's gonna be $60,000 or more, time you get all the gear in there. Bill's nodding his head because he's right in the middle of it. That's it.
That's it. All righty. Does anybody have any announcements or anything? Are we still do you want to make an announcement about floats and all that, or do you want to hold off on that for right now?
We have a flyer going out about the parade, the second Saturday in December.
Okay.
I'll be putting some information out where people can sign up if they want to have a float.
All right, so there'll be information coming up about the Christmas parade for December the 14th. If you'd like a float or something, just be checking the Facebook page, City of Barling Facebook page and all that. Does anybody from the public like to talk about anything non-agenda? Yes, ma'am, come on up, state your name. You're up to bat.
Okay. My name is Cindy Corbell. I've been a resident of Barling since 2002. Our house backs up against Highway 59 going to Lock and Dam. And there's a couple of things that I would like to address and see if we can do something with that. The first is having an ordinance put in place when they come across that bridge into Barling, that they have a noise ordinance, no jake brake law within the residential areas of Barling, because those dump trucks are a lot more than when I first started living here. And at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, they're jake braking down on H Street and rattling the windows, waking me up, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But I understand it's a very simple procedure. I checked with the Highway Department. They said that Barling would just need to pass an ordinance for that noise thing. I have a copy of Branch's little noise ordinance that they have posted on Highway 22 when you're going through Branch, that basically says, no jake brakes within the city limits. If you're caught, it's a $100 fine. So that is something I would like for you all to look into when you come across the bridge and you're in Barling city limits. It's residents down through there now, and it's getting bigger. That I would like to see that stopped. And in part of doing that would be number 2 that I want to talk about is the speed limit. You're coming from Barling to the dam and it's 55 miles an hour. You're coming from the dam and going up the hill, it slows down to 40. However, the big issue is that with the expansion of the city park, with the expansion of all of the housing that's going in, and Interstate 49, where people now come through the back fields and across the bridge, and they get on Interstate 49 to go toward Greenwood, that traffic has increased unsurmountable. I mean, it's 100 times more than when we first moved here. That's fine, but those trucks are going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour down Highway 59, and I have seen some bad wrecks. And the speed limit needs to be regulated, so if there is a car that's wanting to cross over H Street to go to the city park, or a school bus that goes across H Street to pick up children and come back across, that a truck would have enough time to slow down before it hits something. It's just a matter of time before that happens, because people stop going toward the dam to turn on H Street, and there's a truck coming behind them thinking, oh, I'll just go around him right here at the intersection, and there's a car coming across from H Street to go toward Barling, and this car hits this car, and you have another bad accident. So I have seen, just in the past couple of years, at least 8 accidents, and they've not been pretty. And I just want to make sure that no school bus gets hit before we do something. So I would like to see a street light go in there.
Now that's gonna be on the state's part.
I've checked with the state, and the
Because
state
they've gotta
sent
do
me
their
a-
study first,
The
and
state
we've
said-
actually talked to the state.
Okay, well then, the guy that sent me the email today told me that that has to be mandated through the municipal, and that municipal would have to do the studies, or the municipal would have to request
Right.
the studies to the state.
Can we just
And
at
it-
least work with them so that
and
she
it-
as a
yeah.
private citizen
Yes.
is not having
Right.
to
Yes,
deal with them?
absolutely.
Yeah, so, well, I try and do a few
Yeah.
groundwork before.
You've done a lot. You've
Yeah.
done way more than you should have to.
But I just want to see, before it goes too much further down the road and something really bad happens, that we look into that, because I really think the state will agree that we're going to need a street light there.
I appreciate all your comments. I do have a question for Steve, because that is a state highway. Who mandates that speed limit?
State highway.
State highway.
But
Can we
could-
make a request
Yes.
You had
to
to
lower
lower
that
it.
speed limit?
Yes.
Okay. Out here now, it's 40 in front of us out here on highway. Used to be
Yeah.
45.
Yes.
It took blood, sweat, and tears to get it to drop it, and I wanted 35, because in the afternoons,
Yes.
when they go through this stoplight right out here, they're hitting 60 by the time they get down to Blue Agave, and that's how come you have the wrecks you have
Yeah.
in front of Casey's.
That's right.
Okay? The,
I'm all for 35. You can put it coming across the bridge, knock it down to 35. That way, at least when they're going 50, they might have time to stop before they hit somebody crossing one of those streets.
I drive in from that direction 2 days a week, and everyone is on their phone. I would say 90% of the cars around me, no one's paying attention. There's kids, there's all these businesses are popping up out here. There's tons more people taking 59 to work. So I feel like we have so much data that we could give the state highway department if
They
we
do-
just take a little bit of time to
If
get
they
that
do a traffic
together.
count out there or something, they're gonna find, yeah. And
Well,
it
just
used to
look
be
at the
Sunday used to
increase.
be at least the one day of rest that you could kinda get. But then you got the army coming through. So there are certain times on weekends that you see them coming through. But yeah, it's amazing. It's starting around 5 o'clock in the morning is when you really start to see it, and it amps up until 9 o'clock in the morning. And then by 3 o'clock, you got the return traffic coming.
Well, if everybody's gonna be on their phone driving, I would rather them be going 40 than 60.
You could probably hire a couple more police people and just sit right out there and.
Yeah. Oh, it'd
you
be.
you couldn't write tickets fast enough.
Yeah.
Okay, let me say this, we've been through this loop, about the Jake brakes. Used to, if you even mentioned it, that was like, it was like an engine brake. So the Jake brake is proprietary, but anyhow, it was almost like climbing Mount Everest without an oxygen mask. You couldn't get anywhere with them, okay? It took 2 falls out of 3 and no time limit to get the speed limit dropped 5 miles an hour out here. We'll try it. And I think that the other is on 59, where that crossing at H Street, we've seen people vault off of the road and run down, and
Yes.
Matt and I watched them hit the down guy and wipe out the power over there.
Yes.
And, you don't wanna get off that road, okay?
I've heard some of those accidents, and by the time I got out there, it was not pretty.
Well,
I was just out my back door.
That is an awful intersection.
let me say this, that K Street up on top of the hill,
Yes.
when we were building the lock and dam, they had a side T-bone up there on that road right there. So there's no area in there that's not,
Well, the speed limit needs to be restricted when you're coming across the bridge, because there's just, it's residential now, and it's growing, so.
I don't think there ought to be anything inside the city limits that's 55 miles an hour.
Agree.
That's all I had to say. I certainly hope that we can work toward that. If I can help in any way, well, let me know. Okay.
Sounds like you got the
Appreciate
connections.
it.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else like to come up and, from the public, like to speak about anything? No? Well, that means there's one other thing to do. Mr. Ron, would you do the honors?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Got a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Folks, we are adjourned. Thank you. Let's have a great day.
go get your cookie in there.
Start telling us.